So welcome for a very special episode of What's the Point? And I'm here in my hometown, London, and I couldn't think of anyone more important and special to speak to than Mr. Daisuke Sakaguchi, who is an incredible artist and has a really colourful path with jewellery, graffiti, tattooing, and lots of things in between. So without further ado, Daisuke, welcome.
Oh, thank you very much, Shantell. That's an amazing introduction. Now, thank you very much for having me.
Cool. And, you know, we don't usually do video ones, but What's the Point is a year old now. So I thought this could be a nice special treat, and also being back in London. So I love to, you know, find out a little bit more, even though I know you quite well.
Sure.
But, you know, kind of for the audience, getting to know a little bit more about kind of where you're from, the crafts that you create, and kind of the journey in between. So I'd love to start off by asking, you know, what was your first introduction to the arts or the creative fields?
So I was always drawing and making since I can remember. It was my go-to place to just be myself. So naturally at school, that was my favorite subject, art and design. GCSE was like art and design, design tech, A-level art. And so that was going to be my path. I knew that I wanted to become a successful artist. I didn't quite know in what field, but I knew that if I can make a living out of being creative, then I'll be happy.
And what was you like as a kid?
Ooh, as a kid, I would say at school, I wanted to. I feel like if people around me were excited and happy, that's what made me happy. Whether it was maths or English, whatever, let's say, academic subject it was, teachers probably thought I was disruptive, not because I was attacking anything or somebody, not like that. It was more like if I saw something, I just wanted everyone to get excited. And I think that was misunderstood as being chaotic.
Yeah. And I'm living in LA at the moment, and being back here in London, it reminds me of LA in the sense that London feels like a city that has lots of different cities inside it. And so can you describe to us like which part of London you grew up in and how that specific part of London perhaps inspired you as a young adult?
Good question. So I was born and raised in Southwest London. And at the time where I grew up, there wasn't anyone that looked like me. There wasn't anyone that I could see that I could relate to. I would say that has shaped and influenced positively who I am today. Growing up, even on TV, on radio, music, there really wasn't any representation. Slowly now there is, you know, because of the internet, we see it. But even still in the mainstream, there isn't really anyone that really stands out in terms of, unless you really search for it, you know. But no, definitely growing up as a kid where I was from has made me look into different things or even fuse different cultures together.
Yeah. And so, you know, saying there wasn't anyone that looked like you. So from, you know, Japanese heritage.
Correct.
And, you know, you have your parents here. Were there any other Japanese families that you were exposed to growing up?
On Saturdays, my mum and dad took me to this Japanese school in West London. But this Japanese school is mainly designed for kids who are probably only going to be in the UK for a short space of time because their parents were working here. But the kids that were here full time, they would kind of go there on a Saturday. What was strange and interesting was at school, let's say from Monday to Friday, let's say the English school, I felt like a foreigner. I also felt like a foreigner when I was at Japanese school as well, because I looked the way I did, but spoke English like as if I'm from London. And so I guess my identity and the idea of identity has been a big part of how I even express myself consciously and subconsciously.
And so we met in 1999,
Yes.
which feels like a lifetime ago at Camberwell College of Arts. What led you to do a foundation course there?
So when I was doing my A-levels at school, my teacher, now my good friend, Mr. Richard Plummer, he knew that if you're going to do art at art uni, you want to do a foundation course. And he saw me as someone that can go he saw me as someone that can go really far if I kept at it and kept at it and kept at it and kept the momentum going. And I said to him, "Oh, I'm going to take a gap year." Now he said to me, "I think a gap year is a good idea." But for me, he said he really wanted me to just go and do my foundation course first and then do a gap year, because he thought that if I just do a gap year now, I'm probably going to end up maybe getting a bit complacent or getting distracted, because as a kid, I got distracted. Most teenagers get distracted so quickly. So he just said to me, Daisuke, please, whatever you do your foundation course first and then think about it. That way, at least you got that bit out of the way. And I'm really glad I listened to him, because that catapulted me onto doing, keep going. And then had I not done that, I wouldn't have met yourself and all the cool friends that we've made.
Why specifically Camberwell College of Arts?
I actually asked Richard what was his path, and he said that he did his degree at Camberwell College of Arts, and he told me to look into the colleges that kind of are connected to it, such as St. Martin's and LCF. But Camberwell stood out for me because that's where Richard went to. And so I took that advice. Went on opening day, I thought, yeah, why not?
Yeah, I think, my foundational year, I feel like was the best kind of academic year or educational year of my life, just because of the amount of people that we met, the types of people that we met. I think that difference was celebrated. And also, I love the idea that we got to try a little bit of everything.
Yes. When I went to Camberwell, the things that I noticed were not just the eclectic mix of overseas students, but the students that were from London. But as you say, the different pockets of places from London. And what I noticed was, I remember being on the bus or in the canteen, around Camberwell, and I saw other Asian students born and raised in London speaking English. And that blew my mind, because I had never seen someone else of a similar heritage to me, born and raised in London, speaking English. And when I asked them, "Oh, where are you from?" and they said, "Oh, they're from North London." And I didn't realize there was another part of London that had Asian communities where they're born and raised in London as if it's normal. And then I thought to myself, oh, what would it have been like if I was born in a different place of London? Part of me thought, oh, I kind of wish I did raised in that area. However, I'm actually pleased where I grew up, because it gave me a really early insight into how sometimes narrow-minded or mean or judgmental people can be, not because they want to, just because they're quite maybe in an enclosed environment. And so for me, it gave me kind of like a wider perspective on how someone like myself or others might be perceived.
So that's interesting, that perspective of, being the only one in a way. And I think, when we were growing up then, it's not like we had the internet or YouTube to jump on to see, like you said, there were others. And that's something that you discovered at Camberwell. When you were at Camberwell, what type of work were you drawn to? Did you have a distinctive style then? Were you experimenting? Was there something that you kind of got obsessed with then? What did that time look like for you at that, kind of year foundational course?
I would say music and fashion. And when I say fashion, I don't mean to study fashion, but the clothes that we were into and the sneakers we were into, fusing with the music that we're into. So jungle, UK garage, drum and bass, hip hop, all of those things combined definitely had an influence on whether it's the shapes, the color combination. Maybe if we hear something sonically, I wanted the visuals to look like what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
What I specialized in, because we had to take a specialist fields halfway through the year, and I chose metalworks, mainly because I wanted to see if I can create metal objects that I wear, i.e. jewelry. Not for the fashion sense, more maybe from product design level. However, I think it really stems from seeing people in London wearing jewelry in the 80s and 90s in a very London way was something that I kind of fused into my psyche.
Speaking of fashion, and I know that you have one of the best memories of people that I know out there. So, you're a great person to ask these questions because you have a great memory. Do you remember what your fashion sense was then? Do you remember what my fashion sense was then?
100%, completely. When you and I met, you would be wearing things. You always decked out in Patrick Cox, Versace, Moschino, Stone Island. you had stuff that most people didn't have but knew of. Because you're always being hardworking, you had access to those clothes because you're working. You had part-time jobs, full-time jobs, and you always make sure that you're able to maintain and acquire the things that you liked. And for me, I was into my Nike Air Maxes, similar clothes, not as expensive, right? Though I remember in that year, though, we developed in such a quick year, a slight kind of being able to express ourselves without much judgment. Because when we're in London, I feel like there's these tribes, and the clothes that you wear represents what tribe you're from. You don't really get it so much now because it's a whole mishmash, which we'll come on to in a second. But the clothes that we wore represented what music we're into, what we like. But when we saw other people wearing different types of clothes, or even the clothes that we were wearing in a different way, it opened doors of different ways of we can express ourselves.
Yeah, different ways of thinking. Even, track suits with a rolled up kind of bottom.
Yes.
That was a pretty nice detail there.
Yeah, just little accent points. And I thought, you know what? You don't have to do it in this particular way.
Yeah.
And I feel like Camberwell became that kind of safe hub of just being yourself.
Yeah.
Being in that canteen table. If we were to go back 1 year at school, we wouldn't have had that platform to discover different ways of showing ourselves and meeting new people.
So you specialised in metalworks at Camberwell, and then where did that take you?
From there, I knew that the next step was to do a degree. The degree would have been something in art and design. And I knew that product design itself would be quite mathematical, quite logistical. I wanted something a little bit more fluid. I knew that I didn't want to work with fabrics. Not that I don't like fabrics. It's just, it's not something that I click with. And so I wanted to create pieces that I wear. So I looked into a jewelry design course at Central St. Martin's. And I remember putting together my portfolio. I remember spending a long time on it. I wanted to perfect it. And I thought the way you present yourself and the presentation, everything is going to be a key part. I remember going for the interview for that as well. Yeah, that was a big deal for me anyways. And I also liked the idea of going to the same university as the people that I met in Camberwell. It would have been sad to all disperse. So I knew you were going to St. Martin's, and then there was Sarah went to St. Martin's, and I thought, yeah, I got to get into St. Martin's.
But I guess we all had an interview, or we all submitted in a way, but we didn't know we was going to get in until we got the kind of acceptance, the offer.
Yes.
So was it more of a sense of everyone seems to want to go to St. Martin's and everyone's applying, so that there might be a good chance that that's where we'll all end up?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I guess definitely everyone trying to get into St. Martin's influenced, because I didn't want to go to Wimbledon. I didn't want to go to Chelsea. Not that I got anything against it. I wanted to go somewhere that was literally quite in the middle of London. High energy, lots of things around, lots of opportunity. And when you're that age and then you found people that you can vibe with, it's nice to know that where you're going to go next for the next 3 years. When you're not studying, you can go to the canteen again and just carry that on.
Yeah, I thought it was really fun. Myself, you, and our friend Sarah at the time, we all decided to move in together. Yeah. We all got into St. Martin's and we all decided to move in together, and we found a flat in Bethnal Green on Globe.
Old Ford Street.
Old Ford Street.
Yeah.
And for me, that was a really interesting time. First time living kind of out of, parents' house, mum's house, first time living with friends, first time going to, taking the bus for a 3-year degree, which was quite a commitment at that time. Mm-hmm. And I really loved the environment that we created. We would have people over, we would take Polaroids, yes. We'd watch TV together. What are some of your memories of that kind of like living together in Bethnal Green?
I felt like the things that I used to watch on TV, for example, it could be Heartbreak High, Saved by the Bell, right? When you're a teenager, but also turning into an adult and you can make your own decisions, things are your responsibility. you've got just enough time to still be a teenager as well, and not to have to wear a school uniform and being yourself. I felt like that's that's a really important part of education. Not just the academic and reading and writing, but knowing how to engage with people and also just to have fun. I think just to have fun is key.
And then, so you studied jewelry design, and I can see that you're wearing some of the jewelry that you created when you was at St. Martin's. Like, tell us a little bit about that course. You know, was it fulfilling? Did you learn stuff? Did you get stuff out of it? Like, what were the challenges? You know, holistically, what was it like doing a 3-year degree in jewelry design at St. Martin's?
The jewelry design course in St. Martin's was intense. It's extremely hard. It is brutal. The amount of people that was in the first year to by the time that we do the graduation or let's say the final degree exhibition, the numbers have reduced dramatically. I'm super happy with the fact that it was a hard course. At the time, I wished it was more like a uni style subjects, because I know that a lot of people went to like Manchester and Birmingham. They just had like one lecture a week and they were just chilling for the rest of the week. In our course, it was work, homework. Every 1 week, every 2 weeks, there was a crit, which is when you have to get up in front of the whole class and do a presentation, and then you get critique, and the teachers just rip your work apart, not literally, but figuratively. And I thought, am I going to be able to do this? But because I knew that I was committed to it, and before that, when I was doing my foundation course and then getting my presentations together and getting my portfolio together, I was quite used to that intense sort of environment.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people that got stressed and pulled out. There's a lot of people that got stressed and it might have affected their work. Things that I learned in jewelry design, I'm still applying to today, because when I have an idea and a client is in front of me and they have a concept they bring to me, it's my job to be able to execute it in a way where they feel comfortable to get it tattooed, or even if it was an art commission, knowing how to pitch your idea in a very short space of time and get them to believe in you.
Yeah.
That's a crucial part of being a career artist.
We'll come back to jewelry design. You know, you've mentioned the work that you do now. You know, for those who aren't familiar, what type of work do you do now? How would you describe that?
I am a tattoo artist. I'm also a visual artist. And I say that because a tattoo artist sometimes is seen as either a tattooer, which is just doing tattoos, a bit like if you're a jeweler or a jewelry designer. For me, it's really important that I get to express myself not just as a tattooer, but as a tattoo artist and a visual artist, because the designs and the drawings that I do are as important as the final tattoo outcome. Like the entire process for me is an integral part of being a creative.
So are you saying someone who tattoos might not necessarily be an artist in that sense? They might just be someone that does the craft of tattooing, but someone who is like a tattoo artist is pulling more of their personality and style in it? There's a distinction there?
So you get fashion designers, and then you also get people who make the garments, or you get tailors, silversmiths, or jewelers, jewelry designers. For me, it's important to be able to design and also do the craft. Now, tattoo artists, sometimes there are tattoo artists who are technically amazing and they're incredible at what they do, you know, masters of the craft. Sometimes maybe there are other people that are better at incepting the actual designs into becoming original masterpieces of themselves, whether it's abstract tattoos, whether it's realism, whether it's biomechanical, whether it's traditional. And that doesn't mean that one is better than the other, but there are distinctions between tattoo artists that you see who create original pieces to tattoo artists who are amazing at the craft, but maybe the style you have seen a few times before. Neither is better than the other. It's just that sometimes, and also, you get people as well who are not actually that great at the craft, but are amazing at creating unique designs. And now, because there's so many variations and of tattoo artists, but also a whole variety of clientele as well, that the reasons why people choose or customers choose different artists has also widened as well.
And so, you mentioned you went to St. Martin's for jewelry design, and it was quite grueling, lots of hard work, lots of, kind of crits and projects. Did you also get mentorship? Did they teach you about the business of jewelry? Were there any opportunities to do apprenticeships? Like what did that course look like as a whole?
Sometimes we got these lectures where it could be an hour lecture or 2 hour lecture every 2 or 3 weeks, where we have like a guest active jewelry designer, a photographer come in and then do a talk about the benefits of branding and marketing. However, in that time, there was no smartphones. YouTube has only just started. Facebook didn't exist. And so the idea of marketing as we know now just wasn't there. So if it was marketing, it would be to network, but you had to physically talk to people. Well, we taught that. We weren't taught how to pitch your idea specifically to a magazine or a stylist. I guess that's something that we had to really learn afterwards. I mean, what I did learn there was how to make decisions in a short space of time, not to rush it, but to have confidence in your belief and know that at a certain point, you just have to run with what pops out the most. And when I left, I realized whenever I was pitching an idea to somebody or when it got intense, my body and mind was already used to it. So it wasn't a shock to the system. So it is quite interesting now when I do see newer creatives who perhaps maybe not had that intense rush of getting deadlines in, getting work in at a rapid pace, just have a meltdown. Not saying that you shouldn't have time out, but anything that feels tough now is for a good reason.
So it built like a lot of resilience through the course.
Yeah, 100%. In the 3 years, what I feel like would have been good to get, and again, I know it's because of time, budget, etc., but knowing how to make it into a business would be very, very helpful. Maybe that needs to be attached to it as an optional 1 or 2 years afterwards, where we are told this is something that would be extremely helpful for anyone getting into the industry. But things like marketing, knowing how to meet up with stylists, going to all the right events, we just learned that as we went along.
Even photographing the work that you create or documenting it, because a 3-year degree in jewelry design is a huge commitment.
Yes.
And then if they're not teaching you what to actually do with that when you come out of school, it seems a little bit irresponsible in the sense of only teaching the craft, but not teaching any of the business or the nuances or kind of the scope outside of the crafts in the real world.
No, yeah, it's good. It's a good point. It's interesting because when I left uni, I kept in touch with the tutors because the tutors themselves, they're amazing. And I guess I kept on learning more about the topics you just said there after I left by talking with them and communicating with them, because I remember whenever there was moments where I needed to pitch my jewelry to this jewelry brand, and I knew that it could be a lot better than it is. And to help me elevate it, I remember calling up Liz Olver, amazing jewelry designer and tutor, and she kindly sat with me. This is like after I'd already graduated, and she'd helped me tweak it, edit it, and it made it so much better. Even Martin Hopton, who's an amazing watchmaker, jewelry designer, I learned even more after I left as well. So I guess what happened is that it becomes the individual students' responsibility and passion to continue that passion and drive to make what you've learned even better.
That's really interesting. And so, we were at St. Martin's early 2000s, and you're working really hard in school, but we're also kind of working hard outside of school in the sense of, the club scenes at that time, we were going out raving, tell us a little bit about that, like the music scene, what we were up to, what we were doing, who was playing music at that time, MCing, that whole landscape culturally.
I remember one of the key places that for me would be the holy grail of going out was Bagley's nightclub in King's Cross, which is now called Coral Drops Yard. That for me, it would always be close to my heart.
Is that where we went to some b-boy stuff as well? Was that there?
So there was Scala in King's Cross.
Oh, that was Scala, yeah.
And there's Stratford Rex. There was also the End. I remember you used to go to the Colosseum, right, in the garage days.
Yeah, for more garage, yeah.
You went to like Garage Nation and those things in Vauxhall. I remember Bagley's there was like Jungle Fever, there was Moon Dance. Oh, when what is now called Coco used to be called Camden Palace.
Okay, and then where was Best of British? Do you remember that?
Best of British would have been in Bagley's as well.
Okay, yeah.
It was 5 arenas, 1,000 people per arena. It was massive. And there was no aircon. It was all blacked out. So by the time it was like halfway through the night, it was always like dripping with sweat. And this was when there was no phone cameras as well. Also, what was really interesting was because there were lights in there, but at that time, because there was no social media, we didn't know what the MCs looked like. We didn't know what the DJs looked like. We only knew about them because of pirate radio, like Flight FM, Dream FM, Flex FM. And then when we got to hear it live in Bagley's, like, oh my God, that's like, oh, that's Shabba D, that's Skibbity. And then I remember trying to get close to the stage because I really wanted to know what they looked like. But if we didn't see them, it didn't matter because you're just in that vibe, in that moment.
I think also going to those clubs kind of outside of school taught us confidence in a sense, because I remember me and you, we'd walk up to a club, there's a line that goes around the block and we would just walk right up to the front.
Oh yes, we pretend. Yeah. It was almost. I think I repeated to myself that I'm invisible, or that I'm already inside there, or that I've already been in there. And then you're right. I guess that the way we walked to somebody else, let's say the bouncers, thought, oh, there must be someone relevant.
Yeah. We'll just walk up and just like mention a name or be like, like we're on the list or something, and then we'll just walk in.
Yeah,
I don't remember ever really lining up at one of those clubs.
And then if we did get to the front, we didn't get rejected either.
Yeah. And so, going for jewelry design, and then now that you're a tattoo artist in kind of many colors of the word, like how did that transition happen?
So after graduating from university, doing jewelry design, in that time period, to produce a piece of jewelry and to get it out there, and what I mean by getting it out there was to getting it seen. After the piece is made, usually takes about 2-3 months, mainly because you got to get it photographed. And then you want to pitch it to a magazine. Photographer will take beautiful photographs of it, then it goes to print. And then by the time it goes to print, that's been about 2 or 3 months. And as a creative, what I really like is seeing works consistently, continuously. And I'm not complaining how it was back then because that's just the way it was. But I realized I enjoyed the process of designing and drawing, making, but I needed a quicker result. And I knew that with jewelry, a lot of the things that I learned in jewelry, I'm applying to tattooing today. Things like ergonomics, the way that it flows on the body, the way it sits. Also, the way you communicate with your client is very, very similar because they have to put their trust in you to be able to execute what you have up here onto paper and then onto the body. Same thing, except it could be silver and gold or it's ink now. I'd say when I started to get tattooed, and the first tattoo I got was influenced by yourself, that made me realize the things I draw, I want to see that on skin. I want to see that on moving canvas. I want to see that on client's skin. And I knew that I wanted to enter into that field. So the first tattoo I got was the lucky number 27. And Shantell was working would you say was working in Japan?
Yeah, I was living in I was living in Japan. I think you got that when I was living in Nagoya.
Yes.
So I was living and working in Nagoya at like an English language school or something like that.
Yeah, and then Shantell made very good friends with Endek, amazing graffiti artist from Japan. His style is just amazing, and he's also an incredible tattoo artist. And Shantell said, "Oh, Daisuke, why don't you should get a tattoo?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess so." And then I was on a holiday in Japan, and I'll say my heritage is from Japan, or my heritage is Japanese. My parents are both Japanese. I was born and raised in London. But when I go to Japan, I feel like it's home, but also it's a holiday. And when you're on a holiday, you do develop a different kind of confidence and openness that you don't really have when you're at your base. So when Shantell said, "Oh yeah, you should get a tattoo," I was like, "Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I should get a tattoo. What should I get? Oh yeah, number 27, naturally. Where? The worst place possible. Let's get it on your hand." Right? Even I wouldn't tattoo someone's hand as their first tattoo, but between friends and Endek, we were like, "Yeah, cool, let's do it." And I remember so well where Endek had customized his room in his house as a tattoo studio. And this is the thing, in Japan, it's quite normal that tattoo artists would incorporate part of their house as a tattoo studio. In London or England and Europe, it's frowned upon because they're seen as scratchers. But in Japan, where things are different and the licensing is different, I mean, things are developed now. But at that time, it was quite normal to have a tattoo studio within your house. And then, yeah, it was very surreal. It was very surreal, but also felt like it felt normal. It felt like it was something that I should be doing, you know?
And then your second tattoo.
Oh yeah, second tattoo. So when Shantell was in on holiday back to London, so
you can say me. I'm right here. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? It's because all right, okay. So back during Camberwell days and St. Martin's days, me and Shan we'll be going out graphing. We'll go out tagging, and I remember one of the tag names. Well, when it came to tagging, a lot of people had an alter ego name. It was a tag name. It was kind of like your nickname or whatever you created. But you had an incredible illustration of this hangman. And then the way I saw the hangman for me was going against the system, because there's this character who's got this rectangular head, which represents a briefcase. And it's a businessman hanging themselves because they're unhappy with being part of that, whether it's the financial system or it's, being a banker or lawyer, whatever it is, but they still got a heart. But it's a reminder to always follow your path, especially if you're a creative as well. And so I got you to draw a custom hangman, and then where else to get it other than my hand for my second tattoo.
Yeah. I think I remember doing this. We were in London, and
Yes.
I think I remember the place. But, I always thought that was interesting. We both have these 27 tattoos and you got a hangman character. And then I didn't see you for a couple of years. And then the next time I saw you, you had a full body,
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, I guess those two tattoos, had I not got that done, who knows if I would have got tattoos or bigger tattoos. But that went from first, second, and my third tattoo was getting this sleeve done, got my back piece done. And then in that period, that was the driving force of knowing that, watching other tattoo artists be able to put down their idea onto paper and then to tattoo it. And then not only that, but to make a career out of it was something amazing.
So what was it about tattooing that, you obviously got obsessed with it after you got those two hand tattoos? Then you get your whole body done pretty much. Was there a sense of being obsessed with it, getting addicted to it? Or is it more like the artistry of it, of having like an image that you imagine and then having that kind of completed on you? Like, what was it about tattooing for yourself and getting it initially that really inspired you?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I remember, as you said this, I found this magazine, which I'll bring over for a part 2 podcast at some point, right?
Yeah.
I bought this magazine It's a tattoo magazine from the 90s. And I found it a couple of months ago in my house. And I remember getting it when I was at school. This is when we were wearing school uniform. And I remember getting it from the newsagent and showing everyone, oh, look at these cool tattoos. And everyone was kind of weirded out by the fact that I had this magazine of just half naked or borderline naked people just covered in ink. But I was just like, this looks incredible, because it's, whether you're a tattoo artist or a tattoo collector, being able to celebrate art on you was something magical, I guess. And it's the only art form that you don't get to pass on or sell. It is for yourself, of course, unless you do donate your skin and get it cut off. But other than that, it's not for the wall. It's not to invest in. It is just purely yourself. And there's something quite special about that.
I never thought of that. You know, as a custodian or someone that collects work, like you say, you're the protector, the custodian, the keeper of that. But when it's for you, you're collecting it, but it's only for you. It's literally for your body.
Yes, correct. And then what happens is that it goes old with you as well. And when you see old tattoos, they look so cool, even if they're blown out or blurred, because there's a story attached to it. When I see tattoos that are, you can tell that were from like, say, the 50s and 60s. I remember this lady saying that, oh yeah, she got this kind of like butterfly done. She said she got it for like £5. She got some red ink into it as well, but she wanted to get some green and yellow, but it was going to cost another £3 extra, but she didn't have the money at the time. So she just went for a black outline with a bit of red. And I just thought that's so sweet. And she never got it touched up because she just likes the way it is. And then she's got some brand new ones as well. And when you see things age, just like you see cars or furniture have that patina, and you embrace it, you become old gracefully, because you're not against it. You understand it, and you're just going with nature.
Yeah, and so going from jewelry into tattooing, you know, you mentioned with jewelry design there wasn't that kind of education about the business of it outside. How has that been with tattooing? You know, it's a complete different field. I know it's a space where there are politics and some bureaucracy, and, you know, people, like a lot of crafts, don't like innovation in it. How have you navigated some of the hurdles of being, you know, a tattoo artist? How did you kind of learn the skills, the ropes, the business, all that side?
Sometimes I used to think, I wish I'd started tattooing when I was a lot younger. And purely because in a tattoo studio environment, again, it depends on which studio you go to, but a lot of the time what I noticed was a lot of the tattoo artists was a hell of a lot younger than me. So I felt like I should also have done it at that age. However, now I'm actually really pleased that that wasn't the case. I'm really pleased I'm actually doing it right now, because I'm able to implement all the things that I've learned to this point, and I'm using it directly within tattooing. It's from organizing my diary. It's from knowing when to say yes, when to say no, when to be able to take breaks. Also knowing what my body and mind is capable of, like the resilience thing that we spoke about. So I'm able to structure my diary. There's so many aspects of what I've learned from jewelry, painting, doing commissions, artworks. All of that has been useful for tattooing, because most of the time now, when people who learn tattooing, whether they learn online or went to a school or got an apprenticeship, whatever it is, and they just go out and tattoo, sometimes they don't actually know how to structure the schedule. They might also not be that confident in speaking with clients. All of that is a learning experience. But for me, I was able to implement everything, and it's been really useful.
It's interesting because I think there can be that fear for some people that, okay, if I'm doing jewelry, I got to stay with jewelry. And I think, you know, people get scared to pivot into different industries or mediums because they feel like there's a loss versus a gain of knowledge and insights that can be transferred to other places.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. It's, I think what's good is that if you are a creative and you want to do different things, just do it.
Yeah.
We shouldn't live up to people's expectations or boxes. If you feel like you want to do something, it's important that you do it. It's really important also, whether it's the way you speak, the way you present. What's so important is that you don't minimize yourself to please others. Because ultimately, as long as you're staying authentic to yourself, you'll never regret your choices.
And then starting later, you probably have a lot more patience because you have to sit for hours.
Oh yeah. It's interesting where if I'm sitting for day sessions, and I might do, let's say, if I did, let's say 3 or 4. There was a time when I did 5-day sessions back to back, which I don't recommend to anyone. I would also say it's also worth trying, so you know what your limits are as well. But it's quite interesting because then there was like younger tattoo artists who might have done 2-day sessions back to back, and they're, oh my gosh, I'm just so exhausted. I don't know how I'm going to handle it. And I was like, dude, I just done like 5-day sessions.
What's a day session look like?
Day session looks like I will get up in the morning about 6:30, 7 a.m., make sure shower, good breakfast. By the time, could be leaving the house at 8:30, get to the studio 9:30, set up, it'll be 10:30, maybe have second quick snap breakfast. Clients in at 11. You make sure everything's prepped, skin's prepped, stencil on. If there's any tweaks to do, you do it there. By the time that the needle goes in the client, it could be 12. Bearing in mind, I woke up at 6:30, and then you're tattooing till 3:30, 4:30. But then you've got a dialogue with your client, making sure that you're both okay for lunch. Yeah. Make sure you stop for a lunch break though, about 3:30 or 4. You come back at 5, carry on tattooing till about 8:30.
Wow.
Take pictures, you break down, and then it could be 9:30, and then get back home at 10:30, have your dinner, it could be 11:30, then it's midnight.
It's like a 20-hour day, basically.
Yeah, it's a good way. Yeah, actually, I was thinking about this the other day when someone said they how many hours do you work a week, and this could be someone that maybe has like a 9 to 6 or 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and they said, "I'll work around 40 hours." And I calculated, and I thought, I wonder what 40 hours is. And I thought, actually, do you know what? Sometimes 2-day sessions could sometimes be feel like, is a 40 hours? Because sometimes, or a lot of the time, especially if you're doing a new project, you have to do research. You have to do, the prep work, the sketching, the drawing. And I say have to, for me anyway, because it's important that that homework is done.
Yeah.
There are people that sometimes blag it, but for me, it's not worth winging it. Because you can really tell when someone's winged it.
And so there was that question about kind of the future, like what do you hope the next 5 years, 10 years look like for you?
So as a tattoo artist, we either pay a chair rental or a commission to a tattoo studio. And we're all self-employed. So we are our own bosses. But when we are tattooing in a tattoo studio, there are the limitations, or with any place where you make compromises, which is fine. But as a creative, you do want to be able to have that creative freedom of the way you feel like things should be, should just look, feel, spoken about. You're able to make your own decisions. So when you have your own tattoo studio, that's when you can really, really completely have 100% blossoming of your vision. So for me, where I see myself, whether it's 6 months' time or a year's time, would be to have my own studio, a creative hub where the standards and the philosophy and the ideas and all of the things that I've learned and put together that make me who I am today, but also the way I would love to see and cater for not just myself, but other tattoo artists and other creators as well, other visual artists.
So it'll be like a hub. I heard someone speak to it as a sense of like your mission, your vision, your goals. And so this, this space and this studio that you would create is, built on the foundation of your philosophy, your values, the things that you believe are important.
100%. Because what happens is having your own space means that when you have people around you, from the receptionist, apprentice, you're able to make sure that that narrative of the way that clients are spoken to, the way that people treat you, making sure that the place is a comfortable place and a place that people have a creative freedom to be themselves. that's the important thing, is that I want this tattoo studio to be somewhere that you get to embrace who you are.
Yeah. And, this podcast is called What's the Point? It's been going for about a year. And I've spoken to artists from a spectrum of mediums, industries, success, career. And, what's been really nice speaking to all these artists is that I get to ask them, what they think is the point of art, what is important to them about art. And I'd love to ask you that same question. For you, what is the point of art?
I think it makes us better. Right? If I was to use tattooing specifically, but this analogy I'm gonna say could be applied to many different types of art forms. And even if it's not art forms, whatever it is that you do, it could be applied to, even if it's athletics. So I'd say, if you do practice the art or any form of art, or even if you just look at it, because then once you're looking at it, even as an observer, you start to sort of become quite in tune with all the different types of art, whether it's conceptual or the technicalities. You could just be an observer and just really enjoying it. And I feel like good tattoo artists will make themselves better. But a great tattoo artist will make others better. And therefore, if you strive to be a good artist, you could be a graphic designer, product designer, film director, you're going to work really hard to make yourself better. But it's going to get to a point where when you are a great person at that craft, you'll make sure that the people around you become better. And I think art is a great way of making other people better.
I love that. And so as we start to close up, can you let us know where people can see your work, where they might be able to even, book a tattoo if that's possible?
My brand name is The 27 Life. And I say my brand name is The 27 Life because people always ask me, oh, what's up with the 27? Why is your Instagram called The 27? And I'm always very vocal with when people ask me, oh, what's your name? And I say Daisuke Sakaguchi. They say to me, oh, what do they call you for short? I say Daisuke, it's 2 syllables, Daisuke, right? And I even say to them, let's do it together, right? And they said, oh, but can I just call you D? And I'm like, that's 1 syllable. If you just say Ske, Daisuke, I think you could do it. But I also realized what I wanted to do was, when in Japan or in other countries as well, it's good to have a name that is close to you but doesn't necessarily have to be your name. So I am Daisuke Sakaguchi. The brand name is The 27 Life. And so my Instagram name is at The 27 Life. And so on there, you'll be able to see latest tattoos. And I've only got 1 Instagram. So whatever I do, whether it's artworks, paintings, tattooings, that's where I'm at.
Fantastic. My sister saw this tattoo today, yes, and she's like, oh, did Daisuke do that? And I'm surprised that she remembered your name. And there you go. It's only 2 syllables.
That's so cool. Oh, that is so cool. And do you know what? It's interesting because where Shantell has influenced me on that day of getting the 27, when it came to doing, coming up with something for Shantell there, it was, so she was visiting London 3 years ago. And it was at that point where, because prior to this, I knew I wanted to tattoo something on Shantell, but I wanted to tattoo Shantell when I was, that tattooing was like second nature.
But I was also done. I didn't want any more tattoos. And you're like, I want to tattoo you. And I'm like, okay, you choose what it is and where it goes, but I'm kind of done.
That's quite fun, isn't it? Because it's almost come full circle, right? Because it's like, oh, I think if you didn't say you should get a tattoo, I probably wouldn't have got a tattoo 27 on my hand. So I do like the fact that synergy and also that full circle. And yeah, Shantell chose an amazing slogan, WE, simple and effective.
Yeah, people love it. I get compliments all the time. Yeah. So Daisuke, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Shantell.
I'm looking forward to seeing, where your tattooing goes in the future, visiting your studio in the future.
1 second.
Oh, yeah? No, I think we're good. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're just whispering about a future project, which, we'll keep an eye on this space and people 100%. Can find out about that.
No, Shantell, thank you so much for having me. And likewise, for me, this moment is seems normal and comfortable and also very surreal. And I'm really grateful for having this moment and just vibing it out.
I agree. I think for me, it's surreal as well because I'm here doing my podcast in my hometown, which I've not done before. And, you know, I've spoken to incredible artists before, but they're artists that I've met kind of like later in life versus knowing you for most of my life, you know, definitely half of my life. So that it has a surreal moment there.
Because I hear that when people meet people after a certain amount of time, let's say if some primary school kids, let's say 2 4-year-olds, they meet by the time they're teenagers, apparently you go back to that same age. But equally, I feel like if you meet people, you know, bit by bit throughout the years, you still go back to that original state of mind, right?
Yeah.
I.e., right now feels like the way you and I would just be chatting when we were 18, 19 back, you know, in Camberwell days, but with just a lot more life experience, but also at the same time, comfortable like we were when we were teenagers.
Yeah. Things change and they don't change.
Yeah, 100%.
Fantastic.
Yes. Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Likewise, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
That's it.
a little high five. Very American of us. Okay, and we'll do that too. There we go.
Nice one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So thank you for listening to What's the Point today, and I'll put some links for Daisuke in the comments and see you next time. Thank you.